Let's talk about how I made this clutch all by scratch using genuine leather I got from Amazon. Now first, I bought it in measurements where it's actually going to fit the clutch, except for this very top here. I'm going to just cut that off using a cutting board that is scored. And then I use like a box cutting kit as the knife. And then I'm just folding it to where I want it. And then I'm going to be marking off where I want holes so I can actually sew it together. Hand sew it. We're going to use a hole punch to actually punch the holes to sew it with. And to mark off where I actually want to punch the holes, I used a white eyeliner pencil to actually mark that so it can be easily washed off. I tried to punch the holes 2 at one time, but this leather is too thick for that. So I did 1 by 1, punching those holes there. Because again, we're going to thread through with some string that I also made myself. And you do want to make sure that you mark off these holes evenly on both sides, or it's going to look really funny whenever it sews. And when you fold it, that's when you want to actually mark it, because you don't want a hole right down there at the bottom that won't have anything to sew through it. And of course, even numbers, blah, blah, blah. And then once we've got all the holes punched, we're going to be, again, taking some string that I made myself. I used some scrap leather that I had, and I just kind of randomly cut it into little long string pieces. You can see right here, I'm showing you how I did it. I did not measure anything. I did use the cutting board to kind of guide me so that they would at least be somewhat even and the right size that I needed to actually fit through the holes. Then I got to sewing, and again, I did this all by hand. I didn't use any needles or anything like that. I mean, the hole and the string is a little too big to actually be using like a needle or anything. You can do it with your hands. And if you can't see very well, you may want to pop your glasses on so you can actually see what you're doing, which is probably what I should have done. And for the string, I actually did use a different type of leather than what I used for the clutch, and I will actually have both of them tagged below. The clutch was a little bit of a thicker leather, the little strings were a little bit of a thinner leather. But I think it actually looked really cool together, because you can see the string's a little bit lighter than that darker brown for the clutch. So very nice and very fancy, and it looks like I spent a lot getting it at some little tiny boutique. Now, if you want a liner in there, because we hand sewed that, you could just throw in a handkerchief, a scarf, something like that, and that would work great as a liner, and then you can change out the collars or however you want to do it. Now, again, I got this leather already kind of pre-cut for the size I wanted, but you could cut it whatever size you want.